Okay, so now that we have our beat, we're ready to start programming in our first bass sound. We're going to be programming in a kind of a Hoovery bass with a filter envelope on it so that it comes out of the filter, as the note progresses. So first thing we need to do then is to create a new software instrument track. We do this by clicking the plus sign here, selecting software instrument and create. And then we're going to assign an ES2 to the software instrument track by clicking on the input section on the channel strip, scrolling down to ES2 and selecting stereo. Again, with the ES2, we're going to load a blank patch which we've provided in the How to Sound Like Drum and Bass folder. So if we just go to load setting and then click desktop, How to Sound Like Drum and Bass, and double click our blank ES2, we can see that all the ES2 settings have now been reset. So we're ready to program this from scratch. Incidentally, if we're going to be using this blank patch again in later modules, so if we just go to save setting as blank ES2 and save, whenever we scroll down to the drop down menu, it's sitting there, so it means we don't have to load it every time from the Logic How to Sound Like Drum and Bass folder. So first thing we need to do is turn on all of the oscillators, and then we're going to select saw waves for all three. This is how we're going to create that kind of Hoover sound. We're then going to mix all the oscillators. Now if we hit the caps lock keyboard and go down an octave, okay, this is how it sounds at the minute. So we're going to detune oscillators 2 and 3. We're going to detune oscillator 2 up by 50 cents, and oscillator 2 down, we can just double click in here and type minus 50. Okay, so if we now listen back, we can hear that it kind of phases, gives it a kind of a phasing effect. Okay, so we're also going to select unison up here, and we're going to keep it at 16 voices. Also going to turn our analog up a bit, and we're going to set our filter reset to soft. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to do is program our filter here. This is the filter section. So if we turn this around, we're going to be using the filter on this side. We're going to be selecting 18 dB, and we're going to turn it down to 0.2, the cutoff, and the resonance up to about 0.1. Okay, so if we listen back, okay, so it's quite heavily filtered there, but we're going to sort that out by selecting cutoff 1 and 2 from the target. So if we turn this up to about 0.45 and select our source as envelope 1, basically what this means is that the cutoff 1 and 2 is controlled by this envelope here, by the attack and decay of this envelope. So if I turn this up to about 1700 milliseconds and turn this up to about 2500 milliseconds, if we then click our caps lock keyboard, and we can hear how it comes out of the filter as the note goes on. Okay, so the last thing to do is just to change the attack on the actual amplitude envelope to about 15 milliseconds. Okay, we'll leave it at about 18. And then the decay stays at 99. We're going to change the release down to about 52. And we're going to leave the sustain at full. And also going to turn the velocity down a bit to about 0.2. Okay, now if we listen back. Okay, so we're now ready to start programming in the notes. It's going to be a 2-bar loop, so we're going to need to create a loop between bars 1 and 2. If we zoom in using the control and right arrow and select a loop between bars 1 and 2, we then need to select our pencil tool and draw in a MIDI part down here. We then select our pointer tool again and extend this out, and then double click inside the MIDI part. This will bring up our piano roll window. So the first note that we're going to put in is going to be a G here. And we're going to put that in on the second beat. Now if we just hold our command key and draw in our note, we're going to make this shorter. So it's going to come to the 3rd and a half beat here. Then if we just click Alt and copy, we're going to, the next note is going to be this F here. And then the next note is going to be the G again, which is going to extend for the whole of the second bar. So if we turn this up a bit, then listen back, we can hear how this sounds. Okay, it's still quite low, so we can turn this up on the volume here. Okay, so that's our first bass sound programmed. Just close our piano roll window here. Zoom out. We're ready to start programming in the next part of our sound.